very well over the past 8 or 9 months. I've listened to Sean over the last 8 or 9 months. I've listened to his message, but even more than that, I genuinely like Sean Eldridge. Everyone that gets to know him, I assure them, you will too. That's the kind of person Sean is, extremely genuine, but more than that, he has the message that represents this congressional district, and particularly Ulster County. And for the past 4 years, that hasn't been the case. We have a representative now who tells people that he's a moderate, but his record doesn't match it. And I give him credit. I give him credit for a couple things. But one in particular is his ability to try to convince people that he is something that he is really not. Okay?
Outstanding.
And the second, to convince them that he's really representing their interests in Washington when he's taking millions of dollars from super PACs and special interests that he knows full well he owes votes to. First and foremost. District comes second. He's been able to convince people that is how he operates. And we know better. And I know Sean knows better. And I know Sean's staff knows better. And I am totally convinced that Sean will get that message out to people, to let them know the real person the Congressman Gibson is, and I hesitate saying his name, but more importantly, who Sean Eldridge is and what Sean represents. And I'm very, very proud to have Sean as our candidate for Congress this year.
For that warm introduction and for all your help over the last year. You know, you were one of our earliest allies when we were putting this together. And I have so many thank yous. Thank you, first of all, to all of you for taking the time this morning to join us. So many of you have been part of this campaign from the very beginning. I want to thank my team. If you're part of our team, can you raise your hand? Where's Dana and Tyler and Sophie of our staff? We have an amazing staff that has put this office together in very short notice and has really worked incredibly late nights to build this campaign, and I am very lucky to have a staff like that. I want to thank my husband Chris for putting up with me. We are celebrating our second anniversary on Monday. And, you know, there's no better way to kick off a marriage in the first 2 years of marriage than to run for Congress. I strongly recommend it.
That's the first thing on the list, right?
You know, when we officially launched this campaign last September, I knew we would have help. But I didn't know it was going to be like this. I have been blown away from day one of the outpouring of support that we have had. Whether it's the thousands of people who've contributed to our campaign and donated, the hundreds of volunteers, the meet and greets we've had throughout the district, the people who joined us to knock on doors and make calls, and to all of you for being here this morning. It's incredibly humbling, but I know you're here because this isn't my campaign. This is our campaign. This is our community. This is a question about the future that we want for our country, for our kids, for our grandkids. That's what this campaign is about. And as we travel throughout all 165 towns and 11 counties in this district, I'm reminded of what's at stake. If you're curious to see a map, you can see we've got a couple maps here. You can see the miles we've been putting on the road. But I'm reminded when I knock on doors and when I talk to voters about what they're facing, of what's at stake in this election. I was knocking on doors in Kingston a few weeks ago, and I asked a woman, a middle-aged woman, what her biggest issue was. And she said, Planned Parenthood. And I said, great, why is that? And she said, you know, when I was in my early 30s, I went to Planned Parenthood and I had a medical screening that I wouldn't have been able to get otherwise. And they caught a very terrible illness very early in my life. And they saved my life. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Planned Parenthood. And obviously that's pretty powerful. And we currently have a congressman and a Congress that has voted to defund Planned Parenthood, to get rid of the biggest healthcare provider for women in our region. That is wrong. I was proud to serve on the board of Planned Parenthood in the Hudson Valley. I think it's incredible in 2014 that we are still having this conversation, this fight, but we are. The threat is very real, and we need to fight for women like her whose lives are at risk on issues like Planned Parenthood. I'm reminded of what's at stake when I hit a door in Rhinebeck a couple weeks ago and I met a veteran, and his arm was broken. And I said, oh, what happened? And he had fallen, and he said that he went through the VA system, contacted his doctors in the hospital, and it took them 3 months to set up a basic appointment. You know, we've heard about the backlogs throughout the country and in other places like Arizona. It's happening here as well.
Yes.
Our veterans deserve better than that. They have served our country. We need to serve them as well and keep our promises to them. So every day I'm reminded of what's at stake in this race, and it's not just about preventing bad things. You know, there's been a lot of bad things in this Congress, whether it's the sequester, the government shutdown, or literally living with the least productive Congress our country has ever seen, ever. But there's also a lot of positive things that we can get done, and that's what this campaign should be about. When we win this race, we're going to be one step forward, one step closer to making progress on so many important issues. Whether it's raising the minimum wage, when we win this race, we're going to be one step closer to raising the minimum wage, because $8 an hour is not enough to live on in New York State or to support a family. When we win this race, we're going to be one step closer to equal pay for equal work for women, to make sure that our mothers and our sisters and our daughters get paid exactly the same amount. When we win this, we're going to be one step closer to immigration reform. We need to stop kicking the can down the road. We can tackle that issue. When we win this, we're going to be one step closer to making college actually affordable for young people. You know, right now they are burdened with debt. And when we win this, we're going to be one step closer to growing an economy that works for everyone in our area, and for middle-class families, not just for very wealthy people and big corporations. And we can do that. We can invest in job training and in our infrastructure and in support for small businesses in our community that are creating the majority of jobs. So when we win this race, we're not going to just stop the bad things from happening that this Congress has been focused on. We're going to move our country forward on so many of these positive things. And on that issue and on so many others, we need to win this if we want to see our country move in the direction that we all believe in. And we need your help. This is absolutely a race we can win. To stand here in the office that Maurice Hinchey used is pretty humbling. There's a lot of good vibes here, a lot of good history.
Yes, it is.
Nobody can replace or be Maurice Hinchey. Nobody can do that. But it's up to all of us to keep fighting for the things that he fought for.
Amen.
It's up to all of us to continue the work and the legacy that he created in our region. And I've been honored to have his help and his support. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a very close race. And I want to describe why we have this field office, what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish over the next 4 months, because we only have 4 months to go, 18 and a half weeks. We know exactly who we need to vote and who we need to talk to win this race, exactly. And we can win this race. But we're only going to win this if we touch them, if we talk to them, if we knock on their door, or we make a phone call, and we talk to them about where I stand on the issues versus Congressman Gibson's record. So we have that list exactly of who we need to connect with. And the reason we have this office, and we're going to be creating offices throughout the district, is because we need your help to call your neighbors, to call your friends, to call voters, and say why you're supporting our campaign, and also to talk about what's at stake in this election. And if we do that together, if we make those calls, if we hit those doors, we're going to win this. But we need you to do it. You know, C.C. Katchick's race in 2012, I think, is the shining example of politics in our region and how close these races can be. You know, she won her race by 18 votes after a lengthy recount. And our district is very similar. This is a district that leans Democratic slightly, but we could win this by a similarly close margin. But if you join us to make these calls, to knock on doors, we're going to win this race. We're going to move our country forward. And I'm so grateful that you would come here today to help us do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
So with that in mind, I want to turn things over to Josh from my team, who is our field director. And he's going to talk a little bit about what we have planned today and moving forward over the next 4 months. So thanks very much.
All right. So first of all, I'd like to invite, does everybody mind moving it a little bit this way? And that way there's been all these folks standing out in the corridor. Sorry about that. Do you guys want to, feel free, come on in, if you like. Or you can, maybe the view's better out there. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here today. This is huge, this is awesome. So my name is Josh Hyman. I'm honored to serve as Sean's field director. and just really what an incredible campaign this has been so far. I've only been here for 6 weeks. My background, I started out with the Obama 08 campaign and then ran a couple of races in Albany. And what those races had in common was they were all kind of come from behind at first. They weren't given super long odds. And they were like, okay, well, we've got to move mountains in order to make this thing happen. But what they also had in common was this, right? A huge group of people who are ready for change and ready to do what it takes to make that change happen. And that, to me, has been what's so amazing about working in Ulster County and working in the district. You guys are so clearly ready for change on every level. And that, woo, right? And that's what's so amazing about it. I mean, look, I could go on, you know, about the issues that Sean's already touched. Fracking, urgent, you know, and we have a representative right now who's sending letters to his constituents being like, we should frack, right? That's not what we want. Planned Parenthood, we have a guy who goes to defund Planned Parenthood, which saves people's lives and, you know, makes it so that people can grow up in the conditions they need to grow up in. And finally, I don't know if you guys caught the news article a few days ago, Poughkeepsie metro area, I guess, was ranked in terms of where it is in the top 100 metro areas in the United States in terms of job growth, and came in dead last, or close to last. And so we have a clear contrast here, right? We have a candidate who has literally been creating jobs by investing in small businesses in the area, right? But not only that, the theme of what he wants to do is investing in alternative energy and advanced manufacturing, the other places in the future of where these jobs are at. Right? So we have a very clear contrast and a very clear message, and in 1 month, we've had more than 100 volunteers active across 5 counties, and they have made 10,000 attempts, we call them in the field world, knocks or calls, and identified where 2,000 voters stand in terms of how they feel about Sean in this race. That is huge. That's in our very first month. Okay? And I see a lot of those fantastic volunteers in this room today. But we have 11 counties to hit, right? And we have 128 days left to do it, to contact about 200,000 people, right? Don't worry, I've done the math. It only breaks down to about 1,500 voters a day. So, here's the good news. Obviously, we're off to a fantastic start. We just signed a lease on an office in Hudson, so we're going to be adding office number 2. All right? And we are aiming to open an office in or around Monticello in the next week as well. So,
outstanding.
All right. So 13. The fact remains, though, it starts here, right, in the birthplace and the headquarters and the home of progressive organizing in this district, Ulster County. All right. We have a ton of stuff coming up right here, right now, and it starts with 2 events tomorrow. Right? Well, actually, no, it doesn't. It starts today, but we'll get to that in 1 quick second. Tomorrow, we have a canvas in Red Hook with Team Terry Gibson. Every time I say that name, it's like, no, Gibson, right? Yeah, Terry Gibson, right? Joint canvas, which is going to be at kicking off Taste Buds in Red Hook. There's going to be a Milton canvas tomorrow. Sean himself is going to be here canvassing with us. Sean, by the way, has been on the phones and on the doors every single day, which anyone who's worked on a congressional race, that's pretty intense. That's great. And Hudson, we're doing our grand office opening phone bank, again, with Sean this Wednesday from 5 to 8. Okay, so we're going to be, in addition, of course, phone banking and canvassing every single day out of this office, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And building teams of supporters across the district. How many of you guys are familiar with like the Obama for America model, right, that we used in 2008, 2012, right? Woo! Right? People are clapping.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody clapped for a field model. This is great, right?
Yay!
That's because we know that it works really well and it gets people energized around great candidates like Sean, right? So mobilize. We are using that exact same model for this race. So this Tuesday, we're actually having a training session for folks who want to help start a team in their community. if you want to be a part of a local team or help start that team, where's Tyler and Enya? Tyler, back there in the hallway. Enya, back there in the hallway. All right? Go see Tyler and Enya, and they can get you plugged into the training on Tuesday. All right? So finally, it does start, of course, today, as I mentioned, right? Not tomorrow. We're not even waiting an hour after this. We are going to reach out today to make 500 attempts on the phone and 500 on the doors from this very office. We're set up for it in that middle room. If you can stay for 1 or 2 hours and 5 or 10 people do each, we will make that happen. So stay, and it'll be a lot of fun. All right. And last but not least, before you leave, we have these 3 events, right? We have the thing today. Sign up for when you will be in. We want to see all of your wonderful, enthusiastic, smiling faces, talking to voters on the doors and on the phones. Those sign-up sheets are in the back. And that's basically what I got. Last thing I wanted to do was introduce Team Field, who are here today and have done such an incredible job putting this together. Sean called them out. Thank you, Sean. But I want to call each person. So we got Tyler, we got Enya, right? We got Eli and Adam are out there, our incredible interns. And we've got 4 full-time field organizers who are going to be starting on Tuesday. And one of them is actually going to be Tyler. One of them is going to be William, who you may have seen around here. And we tried to make one of them Enya, but she's doing something silly like being the captain of her field hockey team or something. Her senior year in college, whatever, right? But we're happy to have her support throughout the summer, and so appreciative, so appreciative. So thank you all so much for kicking off such an incredible campaign. Please sign up for your first shift before you leave. And that's all I got. Thank you guys so much.
All right.